All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and for spending part of your afternoon or late morning with us to learn about the benefits of ESPC for finance and leadership teams in the MUSH market. My name is Daniel Stockmall, and I'm a fellow at the Department of Energy's State and Community Energy Programs Office, supporting our technical assistance resources for energy savings performance contracting, or ESPC, at the state and local level. Today's webinar is part of our ESPC Campaign initiative, which is aimed at expanding and enhancing the use of performance contracting across the public sector. So for those that have not yet joined the ESPC Campaign, we welcome you to the webinar today, and we hope that you consider joining if you find this event useful or informative. And so before diving into today's content, we do have a couple housekeeping rules to go over. First, if you have any questions, please post it using the Q&A feature. Attendees are in listen-only mode today, so we look forward to engaging with your comments and questions through this feature. We'll address your questions at the end as time allows. And finally, we are recording this webinar, and we look forward to posting it on the DOE YouTube channel afterwards, and we'll make sure to follow up with this information for your convenience. And with that out of the way, we are joined today by a great panel of speakers, and I'd like to introduce them to you all. And so first, we'll be joined by Chris Halpin. Since 1985, Chris has worked for several premier consulting firms in ESCOs in engineering, management, and sales, and is a former global energy manager for a Fortune 100 company. With almost 40 years of experience in managing comprehensive energy management programs and one of the first ESPC owners representatives in the industry, Chris has shepherded more than $3 billion worth of ESPC and other complex energy deals to success for the federal, MUSH market, and private clients. And he is currently a consultant for ESC and for the U.S. Department of Energy's Federal Energy Management Program and the State and Community Energy Program here, as well as Lawrence Berkeley National Labs and several private entities. And Chris has a BS in mechanical engineering, and he's a registered professional engineer in Nevada and an accredited certified energy manager and certified measurement and verification professional. And he's been a U.S. Department of Energy certified ESPC project facilitator for over 20 years now. And next up, we'll have Sheetal Almas introduce her work for the City of Key West, Florida. Sheetal is the Adaptation and Energy Coordinator for the City of Key West and a former Climate Resilience Research Fellow for the National Parks Conservation Association. She has a bachelor's degree with honors in environmental studies, specializing in environmental management and policy development from York University of Toronto, Canada. And with multiple certificates, a couple more speakers to introduce here. And as she'll share with us, Sheetal is currently working on developing a 10-year energy reduction plan and is the primary liaison for the upcoming ESPC project for the City of Key West. She's also on the steering committee for the city's first climate adaptation plan, which is in development. And we're also joined by Regina Wheeler of the City of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Ms. Wheeler holds a Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering and a Master's of Science in Environmental Engineering. And as a seasoned executive manager, Ms. Wheeler has proven abilities to lead organizations to build capacity, deliver on strategic goals, and identify and respond to risks and opportunities while measuring progress and engaging a wide range of stakeholders. During her career, Ms. Wheeler has led private and governmental organizations through game-changing projects and initiatives, such as conceiving and constructing the first LEED-certified solid waste facility in New Mexico, and leveraging $1 million worth of legislative appropriation into a $17 million energy project for the city of Santa Fe. And finally, we have Steve Gale on today. Steve is a 25-year public finance veteran with extensive background in the municipal arena. As the senior VP of D.A. Davidson Company, his area of expertise focuses on the visioning and execution of energy efficiency saving models, building retrofits for energy savings, redundancy, and renewables finance for local government entities. His practice is national in scope, with cost-effective sustainability in the governmental sector as the mainstay of his practice. And he's a long-serving member of the National Association of Energy Service Companies, the Association of Governmental Leasing and Finance, and a multi-chapter member of the Energy Services Coalition. Now, with this great panel of experienced practitioners on deck, I'd like to pass it off to Chris to really set the scene for what we'll be covering today. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, Daniel. And thank you all the panelists for attending today. You're all very busy, and we really appreciate your time. And for all of you who have signed up to take part in this webinar, we really, truly appreciate your time. We know you have a lot going on, and it's a busy time of year, and we thank you for taking this hour out of your day. So, today we really want to focus on talking about what it means for the finance and leadership teams in the MUSH market for ESPC. Some of the common concerns, questions I run into, and then some of the key considerations and messaging that's used to secure their participation and leadership in these projects. So we've already gone through the introductions. We'll talk about where we are in the ESPC process, We're going to get input from Santa Fe, Key West, and from Steve on the finance perspective. Then we'll finish up with questions and discussions. And then we're going to put up a few links to DOE resources and some upcoming events. All right. Dub Taylor is going to start with our first poll. If you can put that up there, Dub. So just please follow along here. What is your role or planned role in implementing an ESPC project? It's multiple choice. So please pick which one best fits you. And we'll be finishing up that poll. I'm going to move on to the first slide, start talking about where we are. Working with finance and leadership teams happens throughout the process, as you would imagine, right? From inception through the end of the contract term. So this could be 25 years in some cases, right? And you really want to start off at the very, very beginning because you need approval and you need money. The two most important things to do any project, really, right? And so we're not going to go through this. This has been in all the trainings and things we've done so far. But these are primarily the 5 different phases of ESPC according to Department of Energy, right? So as you hear things being talked about during this webinar, they'll all have been occurring during these various phases of energy savings performance contracting. Isn't this moving? There we go. And there's a lot on this slide, and this is mainly for a takeaway for everybody. But having done this as an owner's rep for 25 years, these are a lot of the things that I have seen in the marketplace, including funding constraints, the tight budgets that you all live with. You end up having limited capital, you have competing priorities. There's always lots of reasons why it's hard to get these things done, and ESPC really addresses this. It's difficult to get decisions made on a consensus basis, as all of you know. You always have to worry about the politics, as we're seeing now with the change in federal administrations. There's things that need to be thinking about. There's sometimes a very large technical expertise gap, especially if you're a small organization. You don't have a whole engineering department to basically act as your backbench, and really need to go and secure outside help. Committing to long-term contracts is a really big problem for many entities. That's why a lot of states put enabling legislation in place for ESPC to allow all their agencies and all the local governments to be able to get above and beyond the standard, design, bid, build, 1 year funding problem. And learning how to really measure and verify the savings that are the backbone of these ESPC projects, right? Because you're banking on that literally and figuratively to be the money you're going to use to pay off your loan, right? That Steve's going to talk about later on. And finally, regulatory and compliance issues. Most of you that are in the government in various different ways, or school systems or NGOs or whatever, you have strict regulatory frameworks. So you have to try to make all these different things fit within that framework that you have. And ESPC is great at being able to manage these things, but you have to make sure you meet all your procurement regulations, right? Which can be pretty difficult sometimes. And what it really requires is everybody working together, right? From the beginning all the way through the end to make one of these projects work. Okay. All right, so now we're going to get into the meat of the presentation. So first, we'd like to start off with Sheetal Almas from City of Key West. Sheetal, welcome to the program.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me over to speak today. A little bit about Key West before I start. So we are a remote island coastal community. We are a city. We are 120 miles away from the mainland, and we are 4 by 1 miles in geographic space. And as everyone know, Key West is absolutely gorgeous, but we do have our issues that we deal with. Some of the issues that we have is shortage of staff and local contractors, food, shelter, name it, everything is very expensive down here. We do not have enough housing availability. Our electricity and water comes from 200 miles away from the mainland. And the city itself owns about 100 buildings, 47 of which are in the historic district. Next slide, please. So there's quite a lot of reasons why we went with the ESPC route. So lack of local contractors. We don't have enough contractors that are local to begin with, and the ones that we do have are very much focused on residential and commercial. They're too busy to take on any city projects. Secondly, if we were to get any other contractors that are not ESCOs, and if we don't choose the ESPC route, we'd be paying a lot of money in just travel and stay cost on top of the project costs for contractors. So we also knew that our in-house staff won't be able to take on retrofits for our buildings. So we do have 100 buildings. Interestingly, we've done this before. One of our police stations that is 24,000 square feet. We had our community services employees actually do the retrofits there only. All they did was change lighting to LED lighting, and it took us 1 year. And we were like, how are we going to achieve our energy resilience goals if it's going to take us 1 year to do one building? So we knew that we need a different approach, and therefore we wanted to go with an ESPC project that would kind of accelerate the process for us to achieve our energy goals. And then, there were other issues like lack of funding, waiting on grants. And the good thing with the ESPC is that you could start a project with no upfront cost. And then third-party financing is available for that. So we thought that was a great tool for us to use. And to top everything off, there's direct pay and tax credits that could really bring down the project cost. And then the last thing that we really loved was guaranteed savings. You can't find guaranteed savings when you work with any other contractors. And an ESPC approach kind of gives you that guaranteed savings to do the work. And there was another thing that really gave us the satisfaction to do an energy savings performance contract was the fact that, ESCOs really rely on reputation for future business. And they're working with like federal government and MUSH markets. And a good reference means future business. So we knew that we could trust this process. Next slide, please. So challenges that we faced. So I started this position about a year ago, and my role was new. This position was new. I come in first month into my position. I was told, hey, we want to do an energy savings performance contract. And all we know about it, that we can get our retrofits done with no upfront cost. So you're going to this R3 conference and you're going to learn about the whole process because we don't know. We don't know enough. So it was really interesting. I had a lot of fun with it. Although it was challenging, I didn't even know what questions to ask at first. And I found out that every question that I asked, every response raised 5 more questions. I was like, okay, let's find out answers to these 5 questions now. So those were some of the challenges to just finding information. And then when it came to our finance department, we talked to them about, hey, this is what we're planning to do. And their biggest question was how do we procure this? And then when we presented to our city manager and our upper management, they were like, we've never heard of this before. We need to see more cities do it. So it's going to be a no for now. We don't know what you're talking about. So those were some of the challenges that we faced, and we knew that we needed a different approach. The good thing for us was that our upper management changed, so it worked out for us, but changing of upper management could be a potential challenge for other governments. And then another challenge was not having data available all in one place. So I had to reach out to different departments, find out who has building information, utility information, as well as meter numbers. Where could I find out all this information? So I had to collect all that, and it was a process of its own. Next slide, please. So how did we manage to get finance department upper management on board? Well, what we did was used trusted messenger. And what this really means, like we connected our finance director who had a lot of questions with a finance director and finance staff from other cities. And they were able to speak in their finance language and communicate, and that build that trust that, okay, they have done this before. We also invited Timothy D. Unruh, who's the executive director of NESCA, who I met at the R3 conference in New Orleans last year. And, you know, a really nice person, always happy to help and speak to MUSH markets and local governments. And we had him present to our staff as well as upper management. And, you know, that really also helped us. And the number one selling dialogue that we used with our upper management and our finance department was guaranteed saving. Like we kept pushing on, hey, we're going to get guaranteed savings. So no matter what happens, these savings are guaranteed that we'll get through an ESPC route. We also made a list of Florida cities who have successfully completed an ESPC project. We also used a dollar value while we talked to upper management to like sell our project, to get them to approve an ESPC so we can get started. You know, a lot of times they don't understand when we speak like, oh, we'll reduce this much, you know, energy in kilowatts per hour. So that putting a dollar sign next to it, like, is very useful. So where are we in the process? We just finished ranking our RFP for an owner's representative yesterday. Fingers crossed, looking forward for an approval from the commission next month. And I won't get into the benefits of OR, but all I would like to say is that for me, the biggest thing was that I would get that extra help of expertise to overseeing like commission reviews and IGA report reviews and some of the recommendations that are a lot more technical, and I don't have expertise in it. Next slide, please. And just take away from my journey that I like to share is, you know, I highly encourage you to build your interdepartmental team early on in the process. It'll make your entire journey of work through your ESPC project a lot more smooth and a lot more efficient. Benchmark your properties early on in the process. Network with your peers, ask a lot of questions with peers from other governments who are in your same position. And once again, you do not need to have engineering or architectural experience to lead an ESPC project. That's where the OR could help you. Use dollar values to communicate, and highly recommend the PC and RSC certificate series. That's something that I did to better understand what OR could do for us, as well as a lot more detail on the ESPC. And that is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheila. We really appreciate those comments. That was great. And done with so much passion and enjoyment. That's so nice to see.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Sheila. Okay. Up next from City of Santa Fe, New Mexico, Regina Wheeler.
Thank you so much, Chris. And thanks for having me. I'm going to talk a little bit about a project that the City of Santa Fe just completed. So we'll take it from the theoretical, what you'll want to do, to what we did and how we got it done. This roadmap that Chris showed earlier is exactly how I think about the project. And I think if you think about the project this way, it'll be really helpful, because it is complicated, but it's cookie cutter all at the same time. Next slide, please. So the City of Santa Fe's project took us 5 years from the very beginning planning stages to the actual completing of construction stage, which we just completed, you can see, in about mid-2024. And the way we started was we invented this idea to tell the state legislature that we needed a $1 million appropriation that we would leverage against private financing to make a really big splash in solar, to really move our sustainability goals forward. That resonated really strongly with our state legislature because, of course, you know, we're a democratic state, and people really believe in global warming here and want to do all the actions they can to mitigate and address climate change. So 5 years through the process, just take it step by step, but we got a lot done. And it started out with the idea to leverage a grant. That's really important. So simple $1 million made all the difference here. And I'll tell you a little bit more why. Next slide. So in the end of the day, we started out with $1 million. We ended up putting solar on 22 sites. 17 of those sites were our water pumping facilities. So 23 solar arrays all in all. You see the picture here where we put this carport near our public pool. It's also connected to a senior center on the same site. So that array is it serves 80% of the use of those two facilities. We saved over 7 million kilowatt hours of electricity per year with our conversions, and 2 million gallons of water per year, which is a big deal here in the arid Southwest. So really exciting results. And we'll talk a little bit more how we got there. Next slide. So the big deal is to align the project with already adopted city goals and policies. So the city of Santa Fe has a sustainable Santa Fe plan that was adopted just a few years ago. It has a whole bunch of specific activities outlined in it. You know, adding solar is definitely one, switching to LEDs and being more energy efficient is another. You know, reducing our overall climate impact is another. So we were able to align this project concept in our planning phase, both with the state legislature's goals as well as with the city's established policies. And then we just spoke really simply. We said to the sentence to the legislature was one long sentence. It said, we'll use $1 million leverage against private financing to solarize every facility in the city of Santa Fe that is feasible. Super clean, people are like, wow, really? You can do that? Then, you know, the seed money, I think, is a really good way to just nobody asked any questions. Since we had $1 million, even though an ESCO will tell you that you can enter the contract for the investment grade audit without any money because it'll be waived if you move forward with the construction, in the state of New Mexico, you have to encumber the cost of the IGA, the investment grade audit, just in case you don't move forward. You have to leave each governing body decision autonomous. So anyway, we had that seed money. It was like, we have the grant. Here we are encumbering for the investment grade audit. The governing body just felt like they were being given one big gift that helped them achieve their goals. Procurement is one of the steps in the process. In the state of New Mexico, the state has actually done a cooperative procurement that all municipal entities can use of ESCOs. And they have a template contract. They also certify the results that the ESCO comes up with. So when the ESCO says, here's your facility improvement measures, here's your savings, the state of New Mexico reviews that and certifies it. So that just really helps. So, you know, like where Sheetal said that her leadership said, I've never heard of this thing. Our leadership feels confident that the experts at the state have reviewed it, and yay, verily, we're going to have that savings that the energy services contractor is guaranteeing. We really included 45 facilities in our review, all of our water pumping stations, all of our wastewater facilities, all of our buildings, or, you know, a lot of them, anything that seemed even feasible. So I would say, you know, especially your utility departments really look at the long-term financials. And so if you can say you pay for the improvement over 20 years, but the next 15 after that are just revenue or savings, straight up savings to the enterprise fund, that's really compelling for a utility enterprise fund. And then it's funny that I put number 6 as just the strong financial and legal support, not to forget the energy services company support. It's absolutely essential. You know, we don't have that kind of expertise to evaluate the facility, find out what the improvements would be, and then calculate the savings, but they sure did. They looked at every single one of our utility bills. They understood the average annual energy use. They could size the solar. They could identify inefficient transformers, underperforming solar facilities, all those kinds of things. So really important to have the really strong financial, legal, and energy services company professional support, because these are complicated contracts. When you go out to the market to bond, to get $17 million for an energy contract, for energy project. That contract's complicated. And you're going to definitely need your bond professionals, your funding market professionals, your legal professionals. And then one more thing I should mention here that I think Sheetal mentioned better and I didn't, which is that when you're looking at all these different facilities in the city, it's important to think about the relationships of the ownership, because, for instance, our surface water treatment plant that got about 1 megawatt out of 3 megawatts of solar that we installed, that's a quasi-governmental entity of its own. So we had to get the county involved. We had to get an agreement with them. We had to get their board to approve it. So it's really, actually, I could have done a better job of early on realizing how many entities were players in this project. But we did end up bringing them all along, and they were super grateful because they have these goals, and here we were in action meeting them. Next slide. Yeah, so that's our project. It took us 5 years. We did it through COVID. We did it with a little bit of seed money. And now, just so lucky, when we did the project, there weren't tax incentives for governments, but we installed 1 megawatt of solar after January 2023. So we're submitting for tax credits now of $1 million. And that's my story.
All right. Fabulous. That is so nice to hear. Great job. And 5 years over the pandemic, I mean, the fact that you got that far, a lot of folks are still kind of stuck, right? It's still 2-3 years later and they've just gotten stuck. So, hats off. That's a fantastic job. All right. Thank you, Regina. We really appreciate it. Okay. Next, we have Steve Gale from D.A. Davidson.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. As I said, my name is Steve Gale. I'm with D.A. Davidson and Company, and we provide project financing for ESCO-related projects and energy projects on a national basis. When you think of financing, traditionally or typically what we've seen is the process is that an ESCO gets selected, the project gets developed, and then financing is thought of. And that what we found is that because they think that because the ESCO is providing a guarantee, that the financing is automatic because the financing is predicated upon the financial strength of the ESCO. When in fact what happens is the ESCO is guaranteeing the savings. They're not guaranteeing the payments. So the underlying credit of the issuer is key. And that's why instead of moving it in the financing at the closing time, it needs to be considered in the beginning time of the project. So instead of just selecting an ESCO, what you want to do is develop an overall team. The ESCO to help define the project with the issuer, and the financial experts to help start with the structuring of the financing, looking at doing the due diligence portion of it. Things that we look at is that we start looking at the financing, not only do we start doing the due diligence, looking at the audited financial statements to make sure that there's financial strength. We look at things that we know that financiers, the ones that are going to be buying the financing instrument are going to be looking at. We look at the demographics of the community, of the school district, what their population trends are, what the enrollment trends are for a school district. We look at for utility, if it's utilities involved. We look at if there's large users, what's going on, what the collection rates on the system are, if a larger user would leave, what kind of impact would it have on the system with school districts and with cities and counties, what type of trends with their assessed valuation? Is the community growing? Is the population growing? Is there being investment made in the community? Is the community stable? So we take into all those things, and we were able to then help determine if, okay, well, if this project, this community or the school district may have a huge projects, but they can't afford that, we can then work at the beginning rather than letting a huge project get developed, something that can't be financed. So that's why you want to get the financier and or somebody as the finance professional involved early in the stages to help with the preliminary stages of the planning. Once that is determined, then we start working with the ESCO as they develop the savings. We start running preliminary numbers because not all projects are 100% savings. There might be components of the project that do not provide savings, such as there might be you're putting a new roof on a building it won't provide savings, but it's necessary to the overall project. So we can start developing the financing and running preliminary numbers and the structuring of the financing. And then at the final is the closing part of it. And that's where we start talking. Well, let me back up. What we also do is you want the finance professional to be able to come in to your community and talk with your city councils, your board, your school boards, because all politics are local, and the last thing that the decision makers want to do is go to the coffee shop and then and somebody ask them how are they doing the financing, and they say, well, XYZ from there 200 miles away, 500 miles away said this is the way to do it. We don't understand it, but they've done it before. You want to make sure that everybody's educated and has an understanding of the financing, so that they can discuss it as well. The final parts is then the structuring of the financing itself. Once the project is determined, we structure the financing is completed, and then determine how you're going to access the markets. You can access it by doing a private placement. If it's you might have to do it where the private placement is where you go to individual banks. It's a story issue that the city or the school district might have experienced some hiccups in their like their enrollment went down for some odd reason that it can be explained away, and that the enrollment would be coming back, or the large user might have left, but we have a new one coming in to replace it. And so it might be a story financing where you want to just start contacting individual financial institutions to purchase the issue. It may be that you want to do a private placement where it's competitively bid. And private placements, the reason you do those is one, it's a lot quicker and it's less cumbersome. But then you can also do a competitive bid going to the private market or to the public market, which may get you overall better interest rate. So we want to sit down and go over all the options with the community or the school district or county, and so that and determine what is the best for that institution. And then after that, once everything is done, you want to be able to compile it because if you go into a private placement, even though it's bid and you put the parameters on the bid proposals, a lot of them will provide you with what they want, not specifically what you want in terms of different like call protection. So you want to you want your financial person to be able to get it as close to apples as possible, and then after that we make a recommendation. But the final decision, if this is all private placement, on the final decision, the decision on the financing, which financier is or financing institution that is purchasing the issue is best for the community. Sometimes it may be a local bank, otherwise times it may be a national institution that buys the instrument. Let me back up a minute. One other thing in your due diligence stages that you want to look at is if the issuer has outstanding debt, outstanding bonds. You want the financier or the financial expert needs to look at those indentures to see if there's any nuances with that issue, your existing issue, that would preclude, if you're going to do a lease financing, using some of the equipment for collateral on the issue. Okay. And that's all I have.
All righty. Thank you much, Steve. Well, as you can all tell, financing is one of the single most important pieces of this, right? Really what drives ESPC. Most of the rest of these deals are technical and contractual, which happens all the time, whether you're doing design bid builds, design build, whatever, but providing the financing upfront, like Sheila was saying, and not having to come up with any extra funding from the beginning. Like Regina was saying, using that little bit of appropriated capital or a grant or something, and using the private financing to leverage it is so unbelievably powerful. I mean, it's hard to not continue to say more about it. So thank you all for providing us this great input. It's truly enlightening and educating and redeeming for folks like us who've been in this business a while. So we'd like to move into the Q&A portion of the program. Like we said at the beginning, if you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A feature. I can't see. I'm trying to get my screen down here. There it is. Where's Q&A? Come on, it just keeps disappearing on me. Here we go. Q&A. We have 2 questions, it looks like. All right, that was it. Okay, that's so. Looks like we don't have any other questions. Luckily, I prepared a few questions for the panelists here, unless Steve, Regina, Sheila, you have any particular questions you'd think you'd like to talk about, or things that came up that somebody else said, or I can just ask you a few of these questions, whatever you'd like to do.
One question I started getting is, why use an ESCO and not the design bid build?
Yeah.
And the answer that I usually give is I equate it to somebody buying a house. If you buy a house from a builder that's already built, it's not necessarily what you want. And so you end up and have to change things, incur additional costs. So basically, when you're buying that house, you're getting change orders. Where if you you build your own house, you select the builder, and you design the house, and you build what you want. That's what ESCO, by going the ESCO route, is. You're getting what you want, and no change orders, because the project is guaranteed, and then beside the savings, typically there's no change orders in the ESCO project.
Yes, one of my favorite aspects of performance contracting is I used to do this as a young energy engineer in Florida, actually, doing energy audits and then follow-up design and contract administration. And the contractors are constantly sending change orders back and forth, claiming, mistakes on the drawings and this and that. And ESPC really made a huge difference.
Can I add to that though?
Yeah, sure.
I'd beg to differ with that being the key point about why to hire an ESCO. You can't find any design engineering firm that has the skills an ESCO has with respect to calculating energy savings, looking at energy bills. Yep. It's not straightforward to project what your on-bill savings are with your electric bill. If you've ever looked, there's like all the tacked on charges, and if you're going to reduce demand, that in itself is a PhD level science. And then they also know how to walk through a building, and really they know the top of the line, like best energy efficiency, improvements that you can do. They know solar. You're not going to find an engineering firm that has the breadth of
Correct.
expertise that you're going to find in an ESCO. Our ESCO since we installed 3 megawatts of solar, 22 arrays, something like 5,000 LED lights. There were change orders, actually. We found cobble as we were trying to put in the ground mount. So we had to apply extra money for drilling through larger rock than was planned. But the lucky thing that we did is that the ESCO was really smart and put a significant $350,000 contingency on the $17 million project. So we had room. We never actually had to amend the contract. And honestly, that contingency came from the fact that the state of New Mexico exempts solar installations from state tax. So we had a GRT, a gross receipts tax savings. They keep it in the project. We know that we're not gonna have to spend it, so it becomes a really good contingency. So I think the real reason to get the ESCO in there is because of their expertise in energy improvement measures, as well as guaranteed energy savings. Learning how to read the electric bills, like all that kind of stuff. They are completely invaluable to the process.
Yes, that's fabulous points. And you're spot on, right? Because most engineers that design things, design new buildings and they design renovations, and there's no skin in the game, right? They do the design, they basically walk away. And again, I used to work for them that did this when I was younger. And you're right, the ESCOs have got not only the evaluation capability, right, but then the implementation capability, and they're experts at hiring the local subcontractors, right? They, Year Out, who you work with, hires, local electrical contractors, right? And they hire the solar installers, and they hire the commissioning agents. They do all these things that you just don't get otherwise, right? And all with one risk agent, right? One person or one entity.
That's exactly right, Chris. That's a great point. The expertise that was brought in on the construction side and local too. So now we have these relationships with these local vendors who installed our equipment, and they'll be our long-term maintenance providers. But we didn't have to bring them in. We didn't have to find them. We didn't have to procure them. It all came under that ESCO contract. Really big way.
There's none of this, right? There's none of this. It's their fault, his fault, her fault. No, it's a one company that your partner. Okay.
So just to add on to that, and I think even on the finance side, like the finance department has to do a lot of procurement, and it really helps them not to have to deal with 50 different procurements, because we're using a process that is just designed a certain way. So I think that's all. I think ESPC is also very helpful to the finance department as well.
Yes, that's a great point. We spent a fair amount of time on that, and I think that was our third training that we did with, reviewing the ESCO RFP and this and that, and just the fact that your procurement and finance people don't have to hire 4 firms, right? They hire 1 firm, right? And just the time alone that gets spent doing that, especially today's world, right? Everyone inside of a city, town, or school district is doing 5 jobs, right, on average. And you're adding yet another job to theirs that they really don't have the time for. And it's something different, right? So, but bundle it all together and make their life a little bit easier. It's always great to be able to. One of the things that has always struck me, having done this as an owner's rep for 20 something plus years, this first question is, the finance and leadership folks are always hearing from facilities people, we need more money, we need more money, we need this fixed, we need this replaced. And I'm like, yeah. Here's some more duct tape and baling wire. Can you maybe next year, right? And it's constant. And did you run into this? And if so, were you able to really address this issue, or are you planning on addressing this issue?
Did you ask somebody specific that question, Chris?
Just the 3 of you. Gina, you've focused on the solar. Although I saw in that last picture of your solar carport, you had solar powered LED lights in the background.
Yeah, we actually did an energy services contract before this one, just for HVAC upgrades, actually.
There you go.
Yeah, and that, you're right, you're so right. Like, you just cannot get your facility maintenance funded to the proper level. We've of course indicated to our decision makers that we need, $6 million a year just to do regular maintenance investment in our 100
Right.
facilities to keep them from degrading in performance and value. We never get that money. So I think you're right, the ESPC. We didn't work with Year Out on the first project, and I got to say the product, the investment grade audit produced by the first ESCO was really hard to penetrate and understand. So, Year Out produces this really great document that's super actionable, super clear. But I think it is I think I will probably look at undertaking another project to do more building controls and upgrade the HVAC and use an ESCO for that. I think it's a great idea.
That's great to hear. Great to hear. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. Is Sheetal, Steve, you want to add anything else?
Yes, I'll add to this. So it's very interesting that you bring this up. And, I myself have experienced like visiting our buildings and just the facility staff come over and be like, hey, like so-and-so are issues with this building and work needs to get done. And I discovered that we have two people in our community services department who actually do all the building work, something that needs to be fixed, a light that needs to be changed, like maintenance and repair. And that is, again, shortage of staff has been a huge problem for us. And these two individuals like constantly managing 100 city-owned buildings, and mainly focusing on the 53 that are city-owned in the use of city employees. So that's a lot of work, and I feel that bringing an ESCO on board would really, really help them and give them that help that they need. It would be very helpful. And the other thing about that you were mentioning before, the ESPC process, the entire process itself is very helpful in many different stages, including their expertise. And I think the training and monitoring phase that actually helps staff understands that once implementation's been done, there's a training aspect included in it. And I think that's very helpful to our facility staff, because then more of the staff members could learn how to operate some of the things that we are looking to implement. So
Yep, that's fabulous, fabulous points. And that really is one of the central benefits that I've seen doing this for decades, both working on the ESCO side in the 90s and then as an owner's rep, is that you're really able to improve the everyday life of the people who keep your buildings running, right? And in different parts of the country, you deal with different issues, right? In the desert where Regina and I are, it's dust is your enemy, right? The sun and dust is your enemy. And having lived a long time in Florida when I was young, it's humidity and salt water, right? The salt water gets over, the saltwater spray, especially on an island, my goodness, what that does to rooftop HVAC equipment, mind-blowing, and outdoor air intakes and all this, right? So it really does make a difference. And we appreciate that input. All right, I think let's get moving on here to a few slides, maybe give people a few minutes back of their precious time. So we've got a bunch of resources from the Department of Energy and some upcoming events. Energy Services Coalition has put together a bunch of podcasts around all of these topics, right? And this 101 and 103 introduces ESPC and considerations for leadership. DOE has this whole toolkit around ESPC, right? And there's including ESPC Champions Toolkit. So many of you who are watching this webinar are the peers of Sheetal and Regina at your particular organization. These are meant for you, right? These are things that you can learn about how to really do these projects well. The PCNRC course that Sheetal took, which is so nice to hear. I was lucky enough and honored enough to help take part in putting that together. And it really is a fabulous tool. A lot of folks inside DOE and some of the national labs started it, and we kind of helped finish it up. And it was aimed at owners reps, but for anybody inside an organization who wants to work in ESPC, it's what, I know, 15 hours-ish, something like that, two to 3 days of your time. You get a certificate. If you're a professional that needs CEUs or PDH credits to keep your license, it's a fabulous thing, right? So please check that out. And these are all live links. When you get the final version of this and when we distribute it, you'll be able to click on these links and go to these. And there's a bunch of guides here, right? We're not going to go into all these, but there's a lot of great things in here to help you. Then the campaign itself, right? This is a fabulous thing that Daniel's been working on here for the past year, and Laura Carpenter, who is lucky enough to be off on vacation right now, has been doing a masterful job of cat herding all of us and others to try to create this great campaign. And we really hope that for those of you who are watching today and haven't joined, please join. This scintillating conversation is just one example of the kind of benefits you'll see. It allows you to really get in contact with your peers, like the folks on this panel and others, and really share perspectives on what's worked, more importantly, what hasn't worked, right? Because those lessons learned often stay in the little silos of where they happen and don't often get shared across city, county, state lines, even nationally. And this is a way to help you do that. The campaign also provides you with an amplification toolkit, which is awesome. I've been doing this a long time. I haven't seen anything quite like this before, where it's all the tools in a box that you need to be able to create a program and grow it, right? And share the knowledge and bring people in and create something that really will and keep going down the road on your behalf. And for me, one of the best things about all of this, it's demonstrating impact, right? We're using eProject Express, which you've probably heard a bunch of times if you've been to any of these trainings, as it's a database that we're using to be able to take the kilowatt hours and dollars and everything else that's being saved through these performance contracts from all the participants and supporters and put it into this bucket. And we're going to aim for hitting $1 billion in measured and verified savings. Sort of like the United Way campaign thermometer. That's what we're going to do with kilowatt hour savings and dollar savings in EPX, and really giving you all a chance to showcase your achievements, right? It's always fabulous for me to see this going on and hear about projects I'd never heard about before, to see what the art is, right? And there's so many opportunities now with utility rates continuing to increase, regardless of like who's in power in Washington, right? Utility rates are going to continue to increase, and we need more tools to be able to address that situation, whether it's conservation, whether it's just financial fiduciary responsibilities. There's a lot of different ways to attack these issues. So please, again, if you've joined, welcome to the team. If you haven't joined, please fill out this expression of interest. I think Daniel has put something in the chat, but you feel free to grab onto. Upcoming events, we have 3 or 4 coming up in the next month or so. Just in a short 2 weeks from now, we're going to be having this training on paying for your project, sort of understanding how to fund these projects and leveraging the effect of ESPC on contributing funds, right? So similar to what Regina was able to do with that $1 million, we're going to be talking about how to do that over the course of an hour or so. And then our brethren at the ACEEE have hired NACEGO to do these ECBG blueprint cohort trainings. This next one's going to be on financing, understanding our pro formas, our project cash pro formas, and how to secure financing, right? And this is really, really helpful to know, even, a longer course than what Steve was able to do for you in 10 minutes today. So please join that. And then January 9th, we're going to be talking about the performance period, right? We've done 4 trainings already that have gotten us through those 4 of the 5 phases of that the roadmap I showed you at the beginning. This is going to be the last one in that series of how to really manage the project, the one that's been completed, quote unquote, and you've accepted it. How do you go into the next, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, or whatever the case may be for you? And best practices for measuring savings and ensuring success. All right, so that should be interesting. And then the ACAAA is going to be holding another one Monday, January 13th about contracting, learn about standard contract forms and forming the contract, which is really, really helpful to know, right? These contracts are a mixture of services, design, construction, measurement verification. There's like 5 different contracts all wrapped up into one. So you want to know as much as you can about this. And lastly, there's this office hours that the campaign is offering to have somebody, either me or somebody like me, who's a U.S. Department of Energy project facilitator, get on the phone with you for an hour, 2 hours, or whatever it is, about anything you want to talk about regarding performance contracting or anything related to performance contracting, right? So it's you know, really anything you want. We don't have a set of questions. It's you have a project you want to start, right? You have somebody above you you're not sure how to handle, right? You have colleagues who are naysayers, right? Whatever it might be, we're here to help, right? And it's all free of charge. So I think with that, we've got 3 minutes left. Any final questions, input? Seeing none, we have one thing in chat. There we go. I think that, yeah, we already talked about that. So with that, thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care. Have a good holiday season.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Okay.